Hello everyone, and thank you for using Danomics. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Volumetrics module that's available to you. At this point, you should have already created your petrophysical interpretation, set your key well. We want to then make sure that we are on our key well, and you should have already worked up your project through cutoffs interpretation. If you've not yet got to this point, please review the previous videos that have reviewed the earlier modules. So now we're going to select Volumetrics Evaluation from the drop-down menu. Okay, once we select this, it'll bring up our default template for the volumetrics, as well as the relevant parameters. Now there are a few options here that we need to set. So the first option that we need to look at is what is our fluid type for the well. The second option is what is the area that we want to base our oil in place on. Then we need to set our B sub O, so our formation volume factor for either oil or gas. And then we'll set either our GOR or our liquids yield, depending on the options that we choose. So we're going to look at a few of these options here. So let's say, I'm going to say that in this area, my Niobrara is gas, and my Maori is gas, but the rest of my formations are oil bearing, we'll assume. So you'll notice that for the zones marked as gas, we have the properties that are specific as gas, and for oil, we have those that are marked as oil. Now, we can either directly enter a formation volume factor, or we can use correlations such as the Vasquez and Beggs and Hall-Yarborough correlations to calculate those for us. If we choose this option, we'll need to provide it with a gas gravity and an oil gravity. So let's say our oil gravity out here is 35 and say our gas gravity is 0.65. So we could enter those in, and it will now calculate a formation volume factor for both oil and gas for us here. Now we have two options that you may not have seen before, and these are called Analyze On and Analyze With. And these are specific to Danomics volumetrics calculations. So Analyze On means what flag do we want to use for our interpretation? Do we want to use gross reservoir, or net pay? In this case, I'm going to set it to use net pay. Analyze With means how do we want to establish our volumetrics that we're going to use. Do we want to use total porosity or effective porosity? In this case, I'm going to say, let's set that on total porosity. So once I've done this, now the cumulative, our oil in place cumulatives here will be based on our net pay flags and our total porosity flags. And these are done on a zone by zone basis. If you if you really want to make sure that your model is tuned here, you do need to go through and set your pressure here. By default, it'll use a hydrostatic pressure, but if you go through and you calculate your pore pressure in the pore pressure module, which is available to you here, you can also select to use that method to calculate the pore pressure to be used in the Vasquez, Beggs, and Hall-Yarborough calculations. One final note here is the area. I want you to pay special attention to this because when you're generating a map across the area, your objective should be to have a consistent apples to apples interpretation across all your wells. Excuse me. You should really only set the area here on your key well. So if we set this to, in this case, 640 acres, which is 1 square mile, it means that the oil in place is based on this designated area. If you make this smaller, of course, this number will go down. So if we set that to 160, we can see that it's only a quarter of what it was. And if we were to set it to a larger area, we will see that that number is substantially higher, in this case, double what it was by default. So that's just one thing to note, is that for most users, you'll want to set this area only on the key well. All right, if that's it for this module, we've now gone through and made an interpretation of the volumetrics. And in some of the subsequent videos, we'll show you how you can be more sophisticated in this and how you can vary things like your oil and gas gravity spatially. All right, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at support@danomics.com. Thank you.